want us to not? Okay, well, we're
Bonjour.
going live.
We're
Here
live.
we are.
Hello,
Hey,
everyone.
just come at it, throw it all. I'll figure it out. Trust me. I'll never
Rolling
get
with the
lost for
punches.
work.
Street
I
smart.
roll with the punches. I roll with the
Hey,
punches.
everyone. Welcome to another episode of CineMarks. James here with the return of Mr. Paul London. Paul, it's been a long time, but you have not come
Yeah.
alone. You've brought a great guest today.
Well, we have the classic martial artist in the term that, if you're familiar with, especially Southern California martial arts, and a lot of people are here because of this man's film career and his stamp on the martial arts film world. But do your homework and do your research to understand who this man is and his pedigree. I give you Dale Jacoby. Thank you for being with us,
Greetings and
Sensei Jacoby.
salutations. My pleasure. My pleasure. And hello to the audience that I can't see, but hello.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many avenues I think we could start with. There's the obvious, most people, I'm sure you get hounded with messages about no retreat, no surrender. I recently had just kind of found out that you did a lot of work in one of my absolute favorite films that gets overlooked because it's a sequel. But I was doing a lot of my research and my homework, and mind you. James, when was the first time you saw No Retreat, No Surrender? I would say, when was the first time you saw Dean Shooting Star Ramsey be such a prick on camera?
Yeah, we had this conversation. Like I mentioned to Dale, like when I invited him to the show, was No Retreat, No Surrender was actually the first episode we done on this show. But I think I said I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I remember seeing the video case, and you see Kurt McKinney and Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, oh, this looks pretty cool. And I think my mother must have watched it previously because my mother loves martial art movies, and she's like, oh, James, No Retreat, Surrender, that's a really good movie. And I've always been mad at martial arts, and I watched it. And I'm sorry to say, Dale, but Dean Ramsey, you were such a prick in that movie.
Such a
Well,
heel, such a heel.
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about the character of Dean Ramsey. This is the ultimate thing. No Retreat, No Surrender. Ring of Fire 1, Ring of Fire 2, Blood Match. All these characters, they have different names, but they're all Dean Ramsey.
Yes.
They're all Dean
Yes.
Ramsey. I did an interview and we talked about it. They're like, man, your character. I go, I am that character. Like, he just has a different name. Like Dean Ramsey has evolved to many movies because it's the same person. Like, it's the same person. You know,
And
they
we're
say
certainly not calling you a prick by any means. We
I
love
the
what the life
first.
you breathe
Okay.
into
The
characters. You're a
I,
heel that we love. You know what I mean?
no, I'm the guy you love to hate.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. But does that make you wonder? You're like, man,
This
I'm
Dean
getting
Ramsey.
asked to play these parts, and these are all the bad guys. Like, what does that say? What do the how do these guys see me if I'm getting cast in all these
Well,
kind of these
I'll
heavy
tell you
roles?
something that kind of the last season of Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
You know the show Sons of Anarchy.
yeah. What
I
was it,
got a call
Aaron? Was
from
it
Aaron
Norris?
Norris.
Yeah,
Aaron Norris, Chuck Norris's brother. And can you hear me?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So he says to me, he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" Blah 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 blah. I go, "Great." He goes, "Listen, I'm doing this show called Sons of Anarchy. Would you like to be on it?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? It's my favorite show." He goes, "Great." He goes, "You're exactly what we need." I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You look like you were in prison with the Aryan Brotherhood." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm still a bad guy. I can't get out of the." So it's funny. Like, yeah, I mean, you know, am
But
I?
what I was going on, you're not a bad guy in this film. I was gonna lead into Kickboxer too, because I had no idea that you were the stunt double for multiple roles in there, including Michelle
You
Kesey as Tom Poe, including one of your friends from childhood, Sasha Mitchell, which I didn't know as well that y'all grew up together.
I was a chief cook and bottle washer. I also trained Sasha every day. We trained every day. But the ultimate part of that movie was he should rest in peace, Judo Gene LaBelle.
Yes.
I had to throw him out of the ring. I'm like, oh my God. So we're gonna talk story. I'll tell you. You want to hear a great story? Real quick off top. Kickboxer. So Benny the Jet Chiquitas is my sensei, and my first sensei. I was his protege. So we're getting ready to do Kickboxer 2. So Benny and a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Nickerson, who was a stunt coordinator, who did Rocky and a whole bunch of stuff. We're in the ring, and there's like, I don't know, 15, 20 stunt guys in there. Some martial artists, some not. So Sensei Benny says to everybody, my sensei in judo, the baddest man in the world, is coming in. He's in the movie, but he's going to work on our strength and conditioning and take us through stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So all of a sudden, the Jet Center is a big place. You heard of the Jet Center, right? The world famous Jet Center?
Yeah, it's in the movie. It's where y'all are
Yes,
supposed to be in Seattle, right?
exactly. So if you notice, there's a walk. You walk, and we're all in the ring. And Sensei goes, look, there he is. And all of a sudden, there's this guy with a big red afro and a black belt and a pinky. And he's walking in. I'm looking like, oh my God, what is this? Right? Everybody's like, who? Nobody knew, unless you were in the judo world, nobody knew who Gene LaBelle was then. So he gets in the ring, and he's very big personality. He goes, hello, everybody. I'm your Uncle Gino, and we're all going to get initiated. Thinking, well, what's he talking about? So Sensei goes, someone's got to spar with him. Sensei looks at me and goes, Dale, you're going to spar with him. I'm like, okay. So I go, Sensei, I don't want to hurt him. He goes, don't worry about it. We touched gloves. Now he had no gloves on. I had gloves on. And now I'm young. I'm 20 years old, 21 years old, whatever. All I remember is the bell ringing, and then the next thing I remember is him behind me slapping me on the back of the head, waking me up. He choked me out so fast that I didn't. I was like, what happened? What happened? He goes, welcome to the club. That's how he initiates you into the club. I got choked out by Gene LaBelle. I was the ringer.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
that's
love
funny.
that. I guess when you came to shooting that scene, he was the referee, right? In Kickboxer 2, he's the referee. So I guess you'd
Yeah.
already met him when it came to shooting all of that.
Yeah,
So it
we
helped
already
create.
had know it, and he was a big man. He's 275 pounds, and I called him. I'm like, Sensei. He goes, don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Just do it. I just did it. You know, like that movie was crazy. They had me running around crazy. So then they wanted me to double Michelle because Sasha didn't really care for me. It was a whole big crazy thing. So he didn't want to do nothing with him. So they're like, all right, well, what are we gonna do? Back then I had a full pompadour, like a 5-story high pompadour. And they're
Yeah.
like, well, I'm like, you're not shaving my head. They go, we'll give you 10 grand. I'm like, shave my head. Then they thought it over. They're like, yeah, we're not going to shave your head. We're going to give you a skull cap with his ponytail. I'm like, ah, shit. So we did that. Then I had to run back and I had to double somebody else. Then I had to do this. But yeah, it was, it was fun. But it also, another gentleman who passed away, the director, Albert Pune,
Oh, man,
who
yeah.
I got into it with him. And I also starred in Blood Match, which was
Yes.
Dean Ramsey, whose real name was Brent Caldwell in the movie. Same character. Watch it and you'll see. But it was great. Those are great times. Like those are things that, like I go over in my mind a lot. Like I really was that guy. Like I really did this. Like I really did this. I portrayed all these people and I did it. And when I think about the world of Hollywood, like how I got into it, to do it started with Ring of Fire. It's like a lot of people work their whole life and go around Hollywood and never get a break. I wasn't looking; it just came to me, and so we'll go to Ring of Fire. I mean, No Retreat, No Surrender, which is to me, it's the movie that keeps on moving. Sean David, you know who Sean David is?
Yep.
You know Sean? Okay. Well, he reached out to me last week, and they're doing a anniversary thing. They want to fly me to Germany and do a thing, a question and answer on the movie. That movie is a cult classic in
Yes.
Europe. I must get 100 emails a week and inboxes
Call classic
about
here.
people about people who quote
Everywhere.
lines that I said that bitch, and I think it'll be awesome. I'm like, oh my god, I said that. But so yeah,
Who knows?
it's just crazy. How did I get to do that movie? So this is funny. 1984. Yeah, 84, I believe. I'm at the Jet Center working out. So Corey Yulin, you know who that is? He
Yes.
was the
Keith
stunt coordinator,
Crawford.
and now he's very big. Keith
Yep.
and somebody from Raymond Chow's people, they were in there. They were scouting locations for that movie.
Seasonal.
So
Was that seasonal at the time? Seasonal films.
no, was it? I think it was seasonal. Yeah, actually, but it was,
It was
but
it was the
Raymond
first of
Chow
their
had
investment in
located.
the season.
Yeah, so they're in there. So they're I am they're up on this tier, and the Jet Center had like 15 bags all placed, and I'm hitting the bag, and I look nothing like I look now. I was 195 pounds, ripped, big pompadour, tan, just I had that Hollywood look at the time, I guess. So they're watching me, and they're talking, and all of a sudden Sensei Benny goes, "Come here." I run over there. He goes, "These people are doing a movie here. They want you to be in the movie." I says, "Oh, Sensei, I don't want to do movies. I want to be a fighter." He goes, "No, you're going to do the movie." I'm like, "Yes, sir, Sensei." They go back. I go. They rented an apartment in Van Nuys, and I go to the apartment, and there was um, Corey Yuan, um, Keith, like three other people, and then about five people from the Chinese stunt team were there. And I go in there, and they're looking me up and down, and they're going like, "Read this, read this." As I'm reading, Keith is writing. So they turned that little part into Dean Ramsey because
Wow.
the character was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna run with this character. That's the perfect, like he's it's the perfect character." Sometimes like we go over. I like to talk about it. Tony Soprano, right? They casted Tony Soprano. They did not know what they were looking for. But when that man came in there, they were like, "That's Tony Soprano." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
I
some
mean, weren't
people
you
just
initially the first thought was to have you read for the Jason Stillwell, the Kurt McKinney role, but then they thought,
yeah.
this guy's a bit
Where'd
too.
you hear
He's
that?
more like this, more of the heel.
Yeah, they were like, "Man, no, this guy's got to be a little bit of a prick." So you have this guy. Oh, this guy be a good prick. So yeah, yeah, you did your homework.
I did.
Yeah. So um, but I didn't know. And I'm thinking like I don't like. So I think my dad got me some cheap acting lessons. You can tell by my acting how cheap it was. That's a
It
joke.
worked.
You
It's
know what?
good.
Sometimes when you do things off the cuff, like acting is not to act; it's just to do it, like to just be yourself, and that's what I did. I I I I I just I flowed with it. I had fun with it, and it was just like it was new to me, and it's like I I really didn't want to be there, so it was like I wasn't like and it was just a great it was a great set. It was great because 90% of the people in the movie I was very close with,
Yeah.
and Van Damme, Van Damme, he really didn't bother with nobody. He really he did his thing, and then he went and did his thing in the corner. So it was just it was it was fun, and I got
This would have
to
been what, 84, 1984, 83.
84. 84.
84. Okay. And you had your
Yeah.
first professional fight in 84 too, yeah? I think
Yeah.
if I heard you correctly.
You really did your homework.
Yeah, man, I'm honored to have you on here.
Yeah.
I first saw you when I was 8 years old, and you
I
know
did a lot.
you were the hero that my family loved to hate. We hated Dean Ramsey because we knew this guy was a badass, you know,
You know,
and he knew.
but you know what? So I'm a very, I may not look like it, or I may not people perceive me different than really who I am. Talk to my daughter; she'll tell people I'm the biggest sissy in the world. But um, I will cry at least 3-4 times a week again on some of these emails or on some of the things. So I had a woman, a woman now who's, I think she said she's 43, and I'm not going to say her name, but she said, you helped me save my life. And I'm listening to her, and she said, I was in my adolescence into my teens, I was bullied on my weight, and I was shunned, and I had no confidence, and I lost my way, and I watched No Retreat, No Surrender, and I fell in love with the movie. I would come home from school. This is her words, and I would watch it every day, and it would just give me peace of mind and happiness, and your character, you know, your character was the people that were bullying me. I'm like, gee, wait, she goes, she said, but I didn't see you. Like I saw you. I saw behind that character, and I really resonated with you, and I kind of started just watching you and just the things you did, and you kind of you changed my life, and now, I'm 43 years old. I'm married, and my children watch it, and my children are in martial arts because of you. You helped
Wow.
shape my life.
Wow.
Oh my God. I'm oh, and I'm crying, and it's like, it's amazing the effect we can have, not a negative effect, but the positive the positive effect we can have on people who really need that. And I urge people out there, if you're ever feeling bad, or you're feeling lonely, or you're scared, or you're thinking thoughts you shouldn't think, reach out, talk to somebody. You're loved. You just got to believe you're loved. There's somebody out there you need to talk to that can help you. You're not alone. You're not alone. You got to believe you're not alone. I need that sometimes. I need to reach out to people that I need to talk to sometimes,
Sure.
because sometimes you get overwhelmed in life, and that's, I'm very intuitive to people. My children, my
Right.
grandchildren, I have 2 granddaughters.
Wow.
I watch their, I know my son. I know if he's happy, mad, sad, glad. I know by his texts or by what he says to me. And then I know what I have to do. With my daughter, I know this. It's very important. As parents, we can never lose sight of that, because that's how we lose our children. Because everybody, it's like, you don't want to lose your way in life. And we talk about martial arts. What did martial arts do for me? Well, that's what martial arts did for me. And if you did your
Yeah.
research, you know
You
this.
were 12 years old, and I did
So
my homework. You
so
got a wake up call pretty early on,
so
yeah.
what it did for me was, it gave me a purpose. It gave me a will. It gave me a desire. It gave me a push, and it gave me a play that I needed to, because we would not be having this conversation if that didn't happen. I would not be the man I am if that didn't happen. I would not be the person, the father, the grandfather I am if that didn't happen. So out of every negative, sometimes a strong happiness comes out of it. And I listen. I'm a very blessed man, mentally, physically, spiritually, that I still can do what I can do at a high level, and that my mind is intact, and that I see I tend to see the good in people, not the bad in people, and I want to help everybody. And we go to, again, no retreat, no surrender. Like we were saying, the emails or the texts or the DMs I get from people who are just lost, and something about this movie everybody resonates about. And
Yeah.
if you so if you know, so you know, they did a thing like 3 years ago, no, 2 years ago. They wanted to bring me to, I think it was, I forget what country. My character, Dean Ramsey, was voted in their cinema the best movie bad guy of the 80s.
Wow.
They wanted to bring me.
Bravo.
I actually, and it was Germany. They wanted to bring me. Sean knows about it.
Yeah,
They wanted to
that's
bring
so
me there,
cool.
and it's like, I can't believe the character. No, I didn't make millions. I promise you, I made minimum wage. But it was fun. No, I'm joking. We can never put money on happiness. I don't care what anybody says like that. You know
But
what
that
I got.
film lasts forever. The money runs out. The money ends. The money burns. That film lasts forever. It's eternal.
Good
Facts.
point.
Like what I got out of that movie and what I gave to the world from that movie, that little movie that nobody really thought, from Sherman Oaks Karate. This is 2024. That movie was done in 84. That's 40 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
40 years.
Wow.
We are here
Wow.
talking about that movie 40 years
Wow.
later. Figure.
Really puts
How
into
is the
perspective.
going to be a 40-year like an anniversary? You know, I know that we've lost a
Well,
few
that,
of the members
you know,
from
we're trying
No
to do,
Surrender, but
but
I think most
it's
are
just,
still with
it's,
us.
it's, it's crazy, and how it shaped lives, and just, I don't know. It's just, it's crazy. It's really crazy, but yeah. And now,
I'm curious. Uh, I'm so sorry. I'm curious. I know that Cecil Peoples led you to John Natividad when you went to Vegas. How did you find Cecil Peoples?
stories. My dad, should rest in peace, the greatest man I ever, the greatest man ever. My dad had a business. He was in the trucking business. He had a coast to coast trucking. He had a partner. His name was Phil Brown. Phil Brown was in partners with my dad. He also was an ambulance chaser and a chiropractor. You know what I mean? He was a lawyer and
Yeah.
a chiropractor, so he'd get the whole thing. So he was working on Sensei. Sensei was a bus driver. I don't know if anybody knows that. He started out here as a bus driver with the LA Unified School System. So
Wow.
when I got bullied, and I use that word bullied, and I mean bullied, just one time took me to figure out that what you want from me, if I want to give it to you, I'm going to give it to you. You cannot take what I don't want to give unless you're willing to go to a very bad place. That's what I got with bullying. Now we'll move on from there. So my father said, my son's got to get into karate. My son's got to get in karate. And he, so first he took me to Tracy's Karate. If you're familiar with Tracy's Karate, that was the man. We all know who the man is, right?
Was
Tracy's
this in the
Kempo
Valley,
Karate.
Van Nuys, Pacoima? Are we kind of in
Tracy,
that
no,
West
no,
Valley?
Tracy's Karate was a studio, but they were all over. Joe Louis, you heard of Joe Louis?
Chain. Yes,
Joe Louis,
absolutely.
Joe Louis. When I say the man like that, the golden boy
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
Tracy's Karate. So
Okay. Wow. Wow.
so my mom and dad, my mom took me there on Sunset Boulevard, and the first sensei I had, his name was Louis Chavez. Again, he said something to me that resonates with me today. I have thoughts in my mind that I learned 40 years ago, 30 years ago, that's 30 years ago, 20 years ago, that resonate in my mind. When I first walked in, my mom told him what happened. He said, young man, he says, from that, you need to find a fire and a desire from that and push yourself. You understand the meaning towards that, right? You
Yeah.
got to find a fire from that and the desire from that and go off of that. And I did. So I was there about 8 months, and it was like now I was really excelling. I was a kid, but I really liked it. So I wanted to get out of there. So my dad, in a conversation with Phil, told Phil about what's going on. And Phil said, "Are you kidding me? I'm training this guy. His name is Cecil Peoples, Sensei Cecil Peoples. He's a karate champion, and he's big, and he's scary, and he's tough, and he's in the valley. He's on Woodman and was on Woodman Avenue. You should take him there." So my mom and my grandmother take me there, and I walk into the dojo, and Sensei is bigger than life. When I walked in there and they were all on the mat, and he was on the mat, he had this bamboo stick. The stick, then, and back in those days, you could make your students toe the line. Can't do that nowadays. So he had this bamboo stick. He's whacking people. And I'm looking at my mom and my grandmother, and he looked 12 feet tall, and the stick looked about 20 feet tall. And I'm like, can we leave now? And he makes eye contact, and he walks up to me. And he says, "What's your name?" I tell him my name. I go, "My name, Willa." He goes, "You call me Sensei." I'm like, "Yes, Sensei." "You be here tomorrow at 7 o'clock, ready to go." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Okay, what?" "Okay, Sensei." I had to go home and change my underwear. So now I'm thinking like, oh, this is going to be much worse than the beating I took. But next day comes, and I'm looking for the exit, and they bring me there, and he gets me on the mat again, the stick, and he goes, "This is a squatting position." He puts me in the squatting position, and I wasn't down totally, and he takes that stick and he goes whack right on my legs, and I go down.
The scrama stick?
Yes. He goes, "I bet you learned from that." I'm like, "Yes, Sensei." Never got hit again. Well, I did. So that's how I met he's like my father, my mentor. Between him and Sensei Ben, I talked to him yesterday. He's coming to my black belt test. He busts my chops every day. You know, that's how that's how we got affiliated. Like, yeah. So let me tell you a funny
Still
story.
my
We're
favorite
talking
fight
story.
scene on cinema. Sorry, I think his fight scene with Jackie Chan, Wheels on Meals, is
Well,
still to my mind the best fight
they
scene.
say that that's a great one. I'm one of the best. So let me tell you the other great story. Now we're on stories. So
Please.
I'm like the wandering karate guy now. We go to Vegas, and rest in peace, John Natividad, who is one of the greatest tournament sport karate fighters ever. Do your research.
Bad boy.
I get training with him. I'm selling and I'm fighting, and my dad's moving back. So my mom and grandma again go to John and tell him, and he goes, "Okay, listen, you can only take him to the man by the name of Benny the Jet Ukitas. He is the best in the world. He's perfect for Dale." Now I'm 14, I believe, 14, 15. We come back. So Benny was teaching out of the YMCA in San Fernando. So we go, my grandmother, my mother, and myself. Now, anybody who's never seen Benny, look him up. His reputation and who he is comes in the door 2 days before he gets there. That's who he is. To look at him, you'd never believe it. Benny is, back then, was 5'5" with a baby face, 135 pounds, looked like a baby. So we walk into the dojo at the Y, and my mother and grandmother go, "We're looking for Benny Ukitas." And they go, "Yeah. Do you know where he's at?" He goes, "I am him." My mom and grandma go, "You look like a baby." He said, he was funny. He goes, "Don't let the looks fool you." So we started talking, and then I got on the mat with him, and I started working with some of his people. He goes, wow. He was, he was impressed, and he goes, okay. We live 2 miles from him. This is just my luck. So he says, 2 miles from me. He goes, the team runs every morning at Balboa Golf Course. We run 5 miles every morning. I'm like, oh, good for you guys. He goes, no. He goes, I want you to run with us. Again, I'm thinking, mother, what'd you get me into? I don't run. He goes, you do now. So I'm like, oh shit. He goes, I'll pick you up at 5:30 in the morning. Thinking 5:30 in the morning. Now in my mind, 5:30 at night. He goes, no, 5:30 a.m. I go, I don't get up that early. He goes, now you do. I'm like, could this get any worse? Could it get any worse? Could it get any worse? So I go home, and again I'm thinking, I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna be sick. I don't run. 5:30 in the morning. Now Benny, I told you he's little, had this yellow Jeep 4x4. He sat on 3 phone books to reach the steering wheel. He couldn't see over the steering wheel. And I was with him every day for 5 years in the morning. I'm like, I'm hoping he can see. And he don't see well anyways. So we get to the golf course. It's called the Sepulveda Dam Basin.
Yeah.
And it's like 5:45. The sun's just coming up. It's cloudy, and it looked like something out of a horror movie. And I'm like, now my heart's beating out of my chest, because now I'm with all these grown-ass men with ears out to here and noses over here, hardcore fighters, all tagged up. I'm this little boy. I'm like, yeah, I'm really out of my element here. They take off. They start running. I'm running. So we're running. So if the golf course, you run about a mile. I made it to the mile. Then you get on the wash. It's a 3-mile stretch. Now the sun is coming up. They take off. Benny takes off. They're 200 yards in front of me, and I notice Benny. He's looking back. All of a sudden, there's these black buzzards up above me, and they're circling me as I'm running. So Benny, in slow motion, is running backwards to me. I'm running forward. He's running backwards. So he gets alongside of me, and he goes, what's the matter? I go, I can't do this. He goes, well, I'll tell you what. He goes, it's like this. See those buzzards up above? I go, yeah. He goes, you can stop the buzzards or my buzzards. They'll pick you apart. Or you can turn and run like the jet, because he's Benny the Jet. And he took off. I looked up, I looked down, and I took off. I never looked back. Never looked back. That's from that day forward, I'm only forward. I play it forward. That was one of my life's lessons. I don't look back. I don't look what's behind me, and I don't see those buzzards. Never again. I look forward.
Yeah.
That was a life's lesson, and that's something that 35 years, 40 years later is still in me. Again, I call it the shoot away, the way of the warrior. It's still in me. I don't let those buzzards, them buzzards don't stop me. I don't do it. And I live my life. I live my life by that. I have many tattoos, and all my tattoos are meanings of my life. And one of the tattoos is over here. It says one more round, and that is exactly what it sounds. One more round. No matter what you do to me, knock me down. If you don't kill me, I got one more round in him. The Art of War, I listen to every night, because I don't read. I have to listen to it on phonics. No matter what you do to me, and the Art of War, knock a man down 8, he gets up 9. It's the willingness to keep getting up. As long as you get up, you win. No matter what happens, it's when you stay down, you lose and you die. I don't do that. I'm a man. A real man. He will die on his feet, not on his knees. That's the way I live my life. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. One of my acting mentors, Howard Fine, he always says, true mental toughness is not quitting. True mental toughness is not quitting. And it's never too late to tell yourself a new story. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
If you're the type of
I
person who's been submissive and cowardly and just hidden, that doesn't have to define you. That doesn't
no,
have
no,
to
but
define.
and again, that's so spot on. I teach this. The word fear, FEAR. Everybody fears. Everybody gets stopped in the way of fear. Think about this. FEAR. You know how I say it? F, future events appear real. Future events appear real. Fear. What does that mean? That means you're fearful of something that hasn't even happened, but you're putting it in your mind. You're becoming fearful of something. Future events appear real. I said you have to stop that, because in life, everything, everything you want is on the other side of fear. The man who does not face fear does not face himself, and he falls by the wayside. And that's real talk. That's life.
Yeah.
Real.
No,
So
I love that.
it's fascinating to listen to. But so getting back onto No Retreat, No Surrender, Dale. So obviously you're one of few people to obviously spar with Van Damme. How strong was he? And because when we spoke about No Retreat, No Surrender, we heard stories that he was a little bit reckless on the set. Was that
We
Oh,
heard,
you
true?
want to go
Or
there?
we know about we know about the Peter Cunningham incident. That I think has been kind of reported widely. I remember Keith Stramberg talking about that, but you took
You
that bump to
know,
the floor with no pad.
well, I'll tell you that story real quick. That's not Van Damme. That was Dale Jacoby. So
I know.
Corey gets in the ring and says, you can barely understand it, but he goes, look, he goes, Van Damme, he could kick you out of the ring, and you go, shh. I go, shh. He goes, yeah, you go, shh. I'm like, okay, what am I gonna fall on? He goes, nothing. I said, nothing. I said, okay. I go, then we'll do it one time. Boom, one time. Anyways, um, so Van Damme,
Uh,
um, I, I, I didn't even, nobody even knew who Van Damme was then. Nobody. So we're
no,
looking at
he
him
was
like everybody was like, they were saying he's this and that, and but I did the fight thing with him. It was fine. Petey did it, and we all know the story. I think, and I'm gonna defend Van Damme a little. Realistically, he was new to this too. In the stunt world, when you do your stuff, you need air. The depth perception of the camera, you don't need to come that close. So he probably he came a little closer than he should have, and he really didn't mean it. And that's what happened. But here's a funny story. Maybe 2 years after the movie, I got a call from this law firm, and they says, "Is Dale Jacoby?" I'm like, "Yeah." They go, "We're such and such law firm." I'm like, "No, this isn't Dale Jacoby." I said, so, um, they said, "Well, Van Damme on the movie Cyborg, there was a problem. I'm not even going to say what happened, but to me, I don't know. But they were like, would you like to go to North Carolina? I think it was North Carolina, and testify against him that,
yeah, woman.
he was reckless on, he was reckless I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that, because he wasn't, he wasn't with me. And I'm not going to, they're like, we'll pay you. I'm like, now you're not going to pay me, because I'm not going to do it. I'm not gonna shed light on. I mean, I'm not gonna shed fade on a man that I didn't have that problem with. I mean,
Yeah,
it is
you
what
have
it.
nothing to do with that
You
history.
know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of in Hollywood and the world like that. There's a lot of jealousy, and there's a lot of jealous people
yeah.
towards him. I love his story. He came to this country. He didn't speak English. Didn't do anything.
We're fans.
He parked
We're
in
fans,
front
just
of
so you know.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
we're big fans
We're
here.
big
he
fans.
parked. He parked in front of Chuck Norris's house. That Chuck Norris had to call the cops on him, and he begged Chuck, give me a shot, and blah 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 blah. And he worked his
It was
way. He
breakout party.
finagled and he dangled it in there. And in the
Yeah.
end, I do believe he's laughing all the way to the bank. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, give the man his due. Give him his flowers. Man. he did his thing. No matter what, he did his thing. And you know, there's so many stories. I have shade on people that I wouldn't even talk about, that I don't, you know, it's like, why are you coming at me? Like, it's easy to say something, like, say to that man's face, say, don't go behind his back, you know, like, it's just easy because a lot of people talk and they don't think they're ever going to have to pay the piper on what they say. My dad used to say,
True.
don't write a check with your mouth that your body can't cash,
True.
because at some time you're gonna have to cash that check. And I don't do that. If I say it happened, it's the truth, plain and simple. So
Yeah.
you know, that is what it is. So, you know, I'm going to give him that. He was still learning. He might have, you know, I think he was reckless and did it on purpose. No, it happened. It happened. It happened. Remember, gentlemen, Ring of Fire was made for about $52. Ring of Fire, No Retreat, No Surrender was made for about $52. It wasn't made. It wasn't. It wasn't. There was no big budget. There was no. You didn't shoot a master, and then you didn't shoot everybody's pickup. It was one take, pretty much. You better do it like good. So I'll tell you something along them lines. A class act, a great gentleman, a very good friend of mine, somebody I loved working with, is Don the Dragon Wilson.
Yes.
You know who he is?
Yes.
So, Ring of Fire 1, me and Don did our big fight scene. So Don said to me something. He goes, listen, he goes, let's not choreograph a lot of it. Let's just roll like we're real fighters. I'm like, I like that. We just fought to the body. We just rolled with it. It looked great. And then they kept shooting. And then the stuff to the face, you know, was a little more correct, but we just did it. We just did it. You're a fighter. So you're a fighter, especially a fighter over a real stunt, and they know how to react. Like, they know what it feels like to get hit. So you know how to react. You know where the body is going to go. And we rolled with it. And it was like really, it was like really cool. I like that, you know, because stunts have, I mean, it's changed. Like, um, the new Roadhouse, a very, very good friend of mine. We started, you know, I used to spar with him every day. Garrett Warren, who did, you know, Roadhouse and did Avatar, and, you know, is a very, very, very highly skilled, unbelievable martial artist. And he's one of Billy Blanks' martial artists, who my son is one of Billy's first or second junior black belt when he came out here from Boston. So, you know, Garrett did the choreography, and I was noticing, especially when Jake did it with Connor, the camera angles on that fight scenes were very different, and they were more direct. There wasn't air punching; it was like more direct punching, and you could see the perspective over the POV. And I was like, wow, that was really cool. I really liked the way that was done. I really think that might be an evolving of fight stuff. You know, a lot of times they sweep, they shoot from A to B, and this was like, boom, straight on. If you watch the movie Roadhouse, watch the fight scene with Connor and Jake Gyllenhaal, and it was like, wow, it was really cool. Great props to Garrett. It was very interesting. I like that. I mean, you know, especially like when you're doing a fight thing, I think you really, you know, like, people have to be in tune with each other, and sometimes you gotta be able to sell it. A fight, when you shoot a fight, the fight isn't really from the guy throwing the punches, it's the guy reacting to the punches, because he's the one who's really making it work, you know. So it's very
Same thing in
important.
wrestling. It's the same thing in professional wrestling.
What?
Same thing. The same thing in professional wrestling. Same thing. Selling. That's how I've made my living for the last 20 plus years, just by selling, you know. But professional wrestling, selling is what generates the story moving forward, you know. Otherwise,
Hey, you want to
the
hear?
move mean nothing.
Wait, wait. You want to hear something great? Talk about professional wrestling. Do you want to hear the story nobody knows about me and my brother about the WWF or the WWE,
Please.
whatever it was?
Please.
Want to hear a great story?
Please.
Yes.
Many, 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 many moons ago. This is a story that you're getting first. Nobody has ever heard this story, I don't think. Um, My brother and myself, we used to work at a place called the Sports Connection in Van Nuys. So we're in the back, it was open, and my brother and I were doing kicks, all kind of crazy kicks, and we're like fighting in air. And did you ever hear of Steve DeSalvo?
Steve DeSabo?
Have you heard of? Have you
It's
ever
not
heard of Steve
ringing a bell.
DeSalvo?
It's not ringing a
Steve
bell at the
DeSalvo
moment.
went to the WWF, I believe, but he was one of the world's strongest men. And the WWE or I don't know. This is
It was probably
1980, so
WWF.
or 19.
Yeah,
It had just started.
UF.
Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon sent a videographer and a guy to film Steve. Well, while the guy's filming Steve, he's getting my brother and myself on the video. This is old school, the camcorders, the whole thing. We're not paying attention. So about a month later, I get a phone call. It's Vince McMahon. How he got my number, I don't know. He goes, hey, he goes, I was watching you on video. True story. I was watching you on video. They brought it to my attention, you and your brother. And man, I like the way you guys move, and it's just great the way you move. And I'm starting a thing, this wrestling federation. And I said, oh, you mean the stuff? It's fake? He goes, no, don't call it fake. And he goes, I would love to bring you and your brother to Tampa, Florida, and to this wrestling camp. And I'd like to get you guys. I got this concept for a tag team, and you guys kind of fit the concept. We just would have to bulk you up, I really would be like really interested in watching you guys do it, and maybe be this tag team. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm really not into that, and I don't know if it'll go good. Or long story short, you know what the tag team was? Take a
What?
guess. Old school.
Uh,
What
Old
year we?
school. They were.
What year are we talking?
Wait, I'm gonna give you what?
What year are we talking?
I'm talking the beginning of the '80s. They looked like Road Warriors. They were.
Demolition,
there's
Powers of Pain.
no way Legion of
Yes.
Doom. Well, maybe Demolition? No. Legion of Doom, Demolition, Powers of Pain, Power and Glory.
Demolition. No,
Demolition.
Demolition. Really?
Demolition.
You wanted to put you guys under the. Wow. What?
Yeah.
Come on.
I tried to.
Crazy.
True story.
Dude, that's insanity. That's one of the most iconic tag teams in professional wrestling
But
history.
the funny thing is, what were I think the guy out there is filming Steve DeSalvo. I forget what his name was in the WWF.
This is hilarious.
And he had the wide lens on the camcorder, and he sees my brother. My brother's running up the wall, kicking me in the head. I'm running up the wall, kicking him in the head. We're hitting concrete. We're actually hitting the concrete and rolling and getting up off the concrete and all this stuff. And they said, like the team that watched it, like brought it into Vince McMahon and said, oh shit, you got to watch this. I don't know how they got into them. I never even asked them. It never even occurred to me. I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And he looked like, oh, okay. Listen, Roots. Another thing. This is. I'm not as intelligent as I look. So many years ago, Jet Center had no. This is way before. This is probably early '80s. I used to go over and spar. So you know who Joe Goosen is? You heard of the Goosens?
Houston Brothers?
And Goose. Well, they used to be. You know who Randy Shields was?
Just through you.
Randy Shields was oh, you heard the story.
He's a boxer,
So
though, right? He's a boxing promoter or boxer?
Joe Goosen was, but Randy Shields was a world champion. So for some reason, we went to his house. He had a ring in his backyard in North Hollywood, and I sparred. I sparred with this heavyweight dude. Now I'm a kid. Joe Goosen was there, and he's watching me, and he don't say nothing, you know, and he's watching, and I go, I don't know, 3-4 rounds. That night, there was a bowling alley called Kirkwood's where I used to live. I was there for a party, and Joe Goosen was there, and he came up to us, hey, kid. He goes, I watched you spar today at Randy, at Sonny's house. I'm like, oh, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, you're like really good, man. He goes, man, again, I make you a heavyweight. He goes, there's not many guys out there who look like you. He goes, you don't ever have to be a world champion. You'll make a lot of money. I'm like, nah, I want to be a kickboxer like Benny, because he knew Benny. He was like, all right. 20 years later, I see him at the Boxing Hall of Fame dinner, and he comes up to me and he goes, I remember you. How are you? I go, good. He goes, make a lot of money in that kickboxing career? I'm like, He goes, you should have listened to me. Go figure.
That's when you tell him, you ever seen No Surrender, fool? No.
Yeah, right. No, but to me, this is my journey, and I'm on my journey, and this is the journey, and all roads to this journey led to what's happening now, and it's just that I have no regrets. Would I have did some things over? Yeah. Would I have did that over? No. So I don't regret it. Like you can't be sad or mad over something you never had. So it's like it is what it is. But those are things when I tell people, they're like, that really happened. I'm like, yeah, it really happened. Like, yeah, you're a fool. I go, well, it is what it is. But
do you have memories of when the Jet Center first opened? Because I would imagine that was quite the massive upgrade from the Y.
so when the Jet Center opened, so the concept was, Benny spent a lot of time in Japan and the early kickboxing, and he saw the way all these struggling fighters they'd sleep in the gym, and they had no money and no place to train. Benny wanted to build a thing where people could come from all over the world and have this massive thing with all the greatest people, kickboxers, and this whole big thing to come there, and he would put them up and feed them and take care of them and train and blah, 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 give them a base. And that was his dream. And it was unbelievable to see. I mean, I watched that dream. I watched that dream unveil before my eyes. Like, I watched every part of that journey, like built. I watched it. I was there. I lived it, and it was
Up until even the Northridge quake. I mean, that was probably the beginning of the end of it, wasn't it? That was, from what I read, that was.
Yeah, I mean that was it was pretty much, but we had a great run. It had a great run, and anybody who talks about kickboxing always talks about the Jet Center, because on any given day you could go in there and Peter Sugarfoot Cunningham would be in there sparring. Ricky O'Kane, Hector Pena, Danny Steele, Don Wilson, Stan the Man Longinitas, boxing, Mike Weaver, the Weaver twins, the triplets, Alex Garcia. This is the people that were in there before, like who ever heard of all these people from boxing and from kickboxing in there, Benny training, Patrick Swayze, all these A-list people in there training them, like all this in there. And he had showers and saunas, and they had Blinky's Cafe, and it was surely way ahead of its time. So yeah, it was great. And again, I'm blessed. Like, I'm truly blessed, like, to be a part of this all. And that's why in my life I have to give back. I have to give back, because why? Because Benny gave me, Cecil gave me, John the Tinadev gave me, all these great people gave me. So it's my job as a martial artist to give it back and bestow it on my students, so my students can giving back. Somebody said, what is your greatest legacy? My family, but my students, because my gift lives on through my students. That's my legacy. So what I show them, it lives on. It will never die. God willing, it will never die. They keep doing it, and again, my students will tell me, Sensei, I say things that come out of your mouth. I hear things. I see things through your eyes that, like I do from Benny or from Cecil. I do. That's the legacy. Your legacy is that your money or your cars, that is your legacy, because long after I'm gone, that's what people will talk about, is what I gave and what I did. So that's my legacy. That's my greatest, that's my greatest gift besides my children. That is it, is my legacy. I live through it. It makes me happy. There might have been a time in my life that I was cocky and arrogant, that I didn't understand it, but I was. Now I realize I am the most humblest person in the world. I know humility. I've been to the highest high to the lowest low. I know that. And I learned that a real man, a real man, if he does not know humbleness or humility, you're not a man. You're not a man. Learn your humbleness, your humility, learn your ups and downs, your highs, your lows. Then you're a man. If you don't know that, keep searching. That's how I live my life.
Well said. Well, I don't think we can top that. So we're coming up to an hour. You was right. Dale. Paul, you got questions for
want to
Dale?
Birds.
How does one become a student? How does one join you? How does one become a
Oh,
student
yeah,
with
the
you?
club, yeah.
My website's down. Inbox. My email. My IG is Dale Jacoby. Dale Jacoby. IG DALE JACOBY. Inbox me. I would love to talk. I will send you pictures. I would love for you to be a student, whether it's in person or via FaceTime or whatever. Please, I like to talk. I like people with my fans. When people acknowledge and hit me up, I reply to everybody. I take 2 hours out of my day. I reply to everybody who reaches out to me, because if you reach out to me, then you're worth something. Then you're worth me getting back to you. So yeah,
Wow.
IG
We're,
Dale Jacoby.
we're definitely doing a part 2 because there's so many topics we didn't hit, and man, we have to do a No Retreat, No Surrender cast reunion. We'll have to try and make that happen for everyone.
Let's go. Listen, I
That'd be
know
amazing.
I can get Ron Ponnell and Peter. So I'm kind of
That'd
out
be
of
amazing.
the
That'd
rest
be
of
amazing.
them, and but I know I can get them. I think that would be great. Like we said, 40 years ago,
Gosh.
we are sitting here. The topic was no retreat, no surrender. We're still talking about it. It's still
Yeah.
Right.
relevant. It's still relevant. Dean Ramsey is still an asshole. Some things don't change.
Still is.
But yeah,
This has been such an honor. It's surreal. Thank you so much, and we would definitely love to do a sequel and a follow up, because, like James said, we just have so many more questions, and there's just so much more to dig. So this is awesome.
Gentlemen, feel free. You can even DM me. I'll give you my number. You can call me, whatever you need, anything I can do. Please feel free. Reach out.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.